Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings, Astrology for Healing. And I'm going to chat with you about Saturn today. Sweet, sweet Saturn. People give Saturn such a bad rep, but Saturn is so important for so many things in life. And we are talking about transiting Saturn. Transiting Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. So if you are someone that works with your chart and you have your chart and you know your chart, or you're just getting to know your chart, you want to see where 0 to 7 degrees of Pisces is on your chart. If you are someone who does not have your chart, is really new to astrology, that doesn't matter. You're just going to listen to the energies and just feel into what you're feeling into and see how they're impacting you in your life. And you take what resonates, and what doesn't resonate, you can just leave that behind. Okay, if this is your first time on my channel, welcome. I talk about astrology, spirituality, being these human beings that we are, earth-based consciousness, all juicy goodness. I've just started Patreon, and it hasn't even been that long, but we're having a good time there. So the link is below, and I really invite you to check that out. And on that note, let's talk about Saturn. So we're talking about transiting Saturn, okay? So when we talk about a transiting energy, this is about how, firstly, where it is in this, what sign it's in right now. And so Saturn is in Pisces, and it moved into Pisces in March 2023. And so then it went direct, and it went retrograde in June, and it went direct to 7 degrees Pisces, went retrograde in June, came back to 0 degrees Pisces, and now on November 4th, it's stationing direct, okay? Let me just give you the dates for the rest of it right here. So it's going to go direct until August next year, 2024, and then it's going to go into its next retrograde cycle, and it will go from 19 degrees to 12 degrees. It will station direct again, and then it'll be in May 2025 when it first goes into Aries, right? So that is really significant, because that means for the collective, Saturn is beginning a new journey through the whole zodiac, okay? And it will touch into Aries, but then it will have another retrograde. It will go back down into Pisces, and then it will be in February of 2026 when it is fully in its Aries cycle and done with Pisces, okay? And so what does this all mean for us? So where transiting Saturn is moving is asking for new experiences of boundaries. Saturn is all about boundaries. It is the energy of our own boundaries in our life. It is the energy of authority. Now, that is kind of a tricky word to use, because there are some really negative patriarchal ideas of authority that unfortunately have also been woven into our understanding of Saturn. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't encounter individuals, especially in childhood, especially at work, especially versions of ourselves that embody those kind of authority comes from control and power over others. And I use my strength, whether that is my character or my physical strength or my wealth, to ensure that I have the most power and therefore the most authority. Yeah, I can't even say it. It's not real. Okay, that's not real power. It's real in that it is out there, and it's what has controlled our Western framework of society for a very long time, and it is also breaking down. I just uploaded a video on Pluto, who's moving through the final degrees of Capricorn, which has everything to do with that outdated model of power breaking down. And all of that that's in Capricorn, and Capricorn is an archetype that is associated with Saturn. It's important to understand that when we say that, we're not saying they're the same thing, but they are think of them as relatives, okay? And there's certain themes that come up, but they come up just like when you have two relatives, they come up in a different way, even though they come from the same place, okay, the same root. And so Saturn is where we're here in our natal chart to experience an empowered sense of authority, where we actually have such a trust within ourselves that we don't have to use a bullying idea of power, that we actually just very comfortably manifest that power. And it's absolutely about boundaries, okay? Boundaries in our personal life, boundaries between what is known and unknown. Saturn is the boundary maker of the zodiac, absolutely, okay? In that respect, Saturn also teaches us about limits, like the limits of our own life before we get exhausted, the limits of what we need, of where we need to put limits so that we actually have a container that we can work and manage within, so that we're not burning out all of our energy, so that we can accomplish things. Saturn helps us accomplish what we want to accomplish in this life. And all of this is really positive, okay? And so what is Saturn in Pisces all about? Saturn in Pisces, so transiting Saturn is, when it moves through a sign, is cleaning stuff up, okay? It's creating new structures and new boundaries so that collectively we can embody that sign in a new, evolved way, in a way that is hopefully aligned more with higher consciousness, more with the energies flowing through the interconnected web of all that is, that creates embodied justice in this earth experience, in this human experience. And so Saturn comes into a sign and it cleans things up. And this is what it is trying to do in the Pisces part of our chart, of our life. What is Pisces energy about? Well, this gets interesting, because I just talked all about the fact that Saturn has to do with boundaries and limits. Enter Pisces. Enter no boundaries. Enter no limits. Enter the dissolving of ego into divine oneness. Enter divine mystery. Enter the collective unconscious of the ocean of all that is. Pisces got no boundaries, okay? This is why if you have strong Pisces energy in your own chart, our society can be kind of hard to navigate, because our society is a lot of Capricorn shadow, which is like clenching to certain types of boundaries. Can go like that, right? But Saturn coming through Pisces is actually creating new structures within that kind of boundaryless way of being, so that we can manifest new spiritual ways in our own lives and in the collective. Pisces is all about spirituality. It is about a spirituality that is experienced and known from one's own communing with divine mystery, goddess, God consciousness, earth consciousness, whatever languages are of your own spiritual framework. That's Pisces. And so Saturn coming in is firstly potentially a softer side of Saturn, and it is saying on the collective, we need to bring spirituality into this day-to-day life in a new way. We need new ways of coming together, of living, of having views of success and what life is all about, and creating social structures that care about Pisces things, that care about the divine mystery being here all the time, that care about compassion, that care about forgiveness, that care about compassion, forgiveness, because it comes from an understanding that we are all linked. For those that kind of move through non-dualist realms, that is the Pisces archetype. And it's ultimately what every soul is on a journey of returning to in the vast narrative of soul. So Saturn in Pisces is really an opportunity. And so let's get into the little nuts and bolts a little bit. So Saturn came in March, went up to 7 degrees, stationed in station retrograde, went back. So from June 2023 till now, November, it's going back. It's like, okay, we had some ideas about maybe I needed to change my business, or maybe I needed to close my business, or maybe I needed to move, or maybe I needed to end that relationship, or maybe I needed to decide that project that I've been working on for 20 years is just not what my happiness is about. And then, we make those decisions, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I need to start a new project, or I need, but then the retrograde is, okay, well, there's more than just this idea. There's work that has to be done. Saturn is also work. There's work that has to be done. There's the actual work of closing something down, of maybe we were resisting it, or maybe we've launched something new, but that was kind of start and go. And the retrograde is a period of refinement and revision. And then we go direct and we go back over that whole area again, 0 to 7 degrees, and we're moving with it. We're moving with it in a way that may be, okay, now we're really ready to start expanding in this new way. Or now I'm really ready to close that chapter of my life, which implies a new chapter is beginning. Okay, whether we're beginning or ending, you don't get one without the other. Okay, so this period has most likely been about both coming in some way. Some of us might have been way more focused on the closing. It also might not have been something we saw coming, like a business or a project. Others might be way more focused on the opening. And then, this also means something is closing, or it could be both, right? I'm having this come up right now because I'm almost finishing a book. It's coming out in the spring. I've got all my deadlines for my publishers, which is lovely because they're lovely, but it's like the final round of edits. And then I'm like, wow, this is a book about trauma and embodiment and healing. So it's also a deeply personal book, but it's beautiful to see that as this object is going out, that I'm also talking about this whole cycle that was a focus of my life for a long time ending. And it's that simultaneous ending and beginning. And I think we sometimes don't give enough attention to the fact that we don't have one without the other. Also, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. Okay, so Saturn coming through, on the one hand, it's absolutely about bringing the spiritual, like a spiritual upgrade into our lives, into humanity. But it also is about a cycle closing for ourselves and a cycle closing for the collective. But this is the whole story of Saturn through Pisces. So again, we're working with that until 2025 into 2026, and there will be more on that much later. Okay, so this is something that you can think about for yourself, because now as Saturn goes direct, there's probably going to be more momentum. That said, Pisces is also, like, Pisces is the ocean. So let's think about that for a moment, because there's a lot going on in the ocean that we don't have daily awareness of. And down in that ocean, there is grief, there is murky cold bits, there is beautiful life. But Pisces is also grief. Okay, so you could find that grief has been coming up over this past while. It going direct doesn't mean that the grief is just going to go away, but in my experience, grief rarely just goes away, but we learn to live with it in very different ways, and the suffering can go away. Okay. Western culture is very confused about things like grief and suffering and pain and death, because for the most part, it doesn't talk about them. Silences them. Okay. And they come up in Pisces, okay? They come up in actually all the water signs, and Pisces is a water energy. And so Saturn is also creating structures for us to be in this, as we so often say that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Like, Saturn is offering an opportunity to create more structures for that spirituality to come through in this area of your life where you have Pisces, or where it just feels as I'm talking, if you're thinking about something that's coming up, there's opportunity for more structure to come through. And that's incredible. Okay. And it probably is going to require work. It probably is going to require dedication. These are Saturn words. But again, you know, we tend to have a patriarchal and colonial idea of work and dedication, which is that you should hate your work, you should suffer. Do you know how many people were like brought up to think that they should not enjoy their work? That just doesn't have to be the case. And especially with this being Pisces, this is about our own connection to the divine coming through in our life. So we should want there to be actually quite a bit of divine love that's generating our dedication to this Saturn way of working with the energy. So these are lots of thoughts on this Saturn in Pisces transit that we are all experiencing. I'm going to leave it with that, and I hope that you are doing so well today. Be well.